In Stoicism, evil is not monsters and shadows. It is character without virtue. It is a soul that rejects wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. The four pillars taught by Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. The Stoics believed no one can harm your inner peace unless you allow them into your mind. But how do you recognize someone whose presence quietly corrupts, manipulates, and drains? Here are 10 dark signs you may be in the company of an evil person through the lens of Stoicism. Verse 1. They never take responsibility. There is something deeply unsettling about a person who never says, "That was my fault." In Stoicism, responsibility is power. The moment you accept ownership of your actions, you reclaim control over your character. But an evil person rejects responsibility because accountability threatens their ego, and protecting their ego matters more to them than truth. To the Stoics, especially Epictetus, the first step toward freedom was simple. Control what is within your power, your thoughts, your actions, your choices. When someone refuses responsibility, they abandon this principle entirely. They choose denial over growth. And denial is where corruption begins. An evil person does not simply make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. The difference is what happens after. A virtuous person reflects, they adjust, they apologize sincerely, they improve. But a person without virtue rewrites the story. If they hurt you, you're too sensitive. If they fail, the system is rigged. If they lie, you misunderstood. If they betray trust, you pushed them to it. Notice the pattern. The spotlight never lands on them. They live in a constant state of self-justification. Every flaw has an excuse. Every wrongdoing has a rationale. Every harmful act becomes someone else's responsibility. This is not weakness. It is strategy. Because once someone admits fault, they must change. And change requires humility. Evil resists humility at all costs. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote often about self-examination. He reminded himself daily to look inward before blaming outward. Imagine ruling an empire and still holding yourself accountable for your own reactions. That is strength. Now compare that to someone who cannot admit they were wrong in a simple conversation. Refusal of responsibility is more than immaturity. It is moral cowardice. It slowly poisons relationships. When a person never accepts blame, something dangerous happens. You start carrying it for them. You apologize for things you didn't do. You question your memory. You shrink your truth to preserve peace. And over time, you begin to doubt yourself. This is how evil spreads, not through dramatic acts, but through subtle distortions of reality. Let's look at an example. Imagine you and a close friend agree to work on a project together. Deadlines are clear, roles are clear. You complete your part on time. They don't. The project fails. When confronted, they say, "You didn't remind me. You weren't clear enough. You rushed me. You should have helped more." Not once do they say, "I didn't manage my time well." Instead of accountability, they offer deflection. Instead of ownership, they offer accusation. You leave the conversation feeling guilty, even though you fulfilled your responsibilities. This is how the pattern works. Or consider a romantic relationship. They say something cruel in anger. You express that it hurt you. Instead of apologizing, they respond, "You always twist my words. If you weren't so dramatic, I wouldn't get frustrated. You made me say that." They shift the weight of their behavior onto your shoulders. Over time, you stop addressing issues, because every confrontation becomes an interrogation of you. Stoicism teaches that your character is your fortress. But when someone never takes responsibility, they attempt to breach that fortress by making you question your judgment. And here is the darkest part. They believe their own excuses. Through repetition, they construct a false narrative where they are always misunderstood, always targeted, always innocent. They become the hero of every story, and everyone else becomes the villain. This mindset makes growth impossible, because growth begins with the sentence, "I was wrong." Without that sentence, there is no evolution. As Seneca warned, the greatest obstacle to improvement is the illusion of perfection. If someone believes they are never at fault, they will never change. And if they never change, their destructive patterns will continue. Unchecked, in Stoic philosophy, responsibility equals freedom. When you accept fault, you regain the power to choose differently next time. But when someone refuses responsibility, they trap themselves and everyone around them in cycles of blame. Pay attention to how they react when confronted calmly. Do they pause and reflect, or do they attack, deflect, and distort? Evil does not shout, "I am evil." It whispers, "It wasn't my fault." And the most dangerous part, the longer you stay around someone like this, the more you may start doubting your own sense of responsibility. You might overcorrect, over-apologize, overcompensate. A Stoic would warn you, guard your inner court of judgment. Do not let someone else's refusal to own their actions distort your perception of truth. You cannot force someone to take responsibility. That is outside your control, but you can observe the pattern. You can detach from the manipulation. You can refuse to carry blame that does not belong to you. The Stoics did not fear difficult people. They feared becoming like them. So ask yourself, when conflict arises, does this person seek truth or self-preservation? Do they value growth or victory? Because someone who never takes responsibility is not just flawed, they are dangerous. And Stoicism teaches one final lesson. You are responsible for one soul only, your own. Protect it. 2. They create chaos, then play the victim. There is a particular kind of darkness that doesn't attack directly. It provokes. It disturbs. It ignites fires, then steps back and screams, "Why is everything burning?" This is the person who creates chaos and then plays the victim. To the Stoics, disorder in the external world is unavoidable, but disorder created intentionally, then denied, reveals something far more dangerous, a corrupted character. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in Meditations, we cannot control what others do, only how we respond. But recognizing destructive patterns is wisdom. And this pattern is subtle. They don't start arguments directly. They plant seeds, a careless comment, a half-truth, a loaded joke disguised as humor. Then they watch. When tension rises, they widen their eyes in innocence. Why is everyone so sensitive? I was just trying to help. I can't believe you'd think I meant that. Chaos is their weapon. Victimhood is their shield. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that people act according to what they believe is good. A chaotic manipulator believes control is good. Emotional turbulence gives them power. When people are confused, defensive, or fighting each other, attention shifts away from their own flaws, so they manufacture storms. They tell one friend what another supposedly said, slightly altered. They exaggerate small issues into major offenses. They withhold key information to ensure misunderstandings. And when confrontation comes, they dissolve into fragility. Why is everyone attacking me? I'm always the one blamed. No one understands how hard this is for me. Notice what happens next. The focus shifts from the damage they caused to their feelings about being confronted. That is not accidental, it is emotional redirection. Instead of addressing the chaos, you now find yourself comforting the person who created it. And that is how control is maintained. Let's look at an example. Imagine a workplace scenario. A team member privately tells you, "The manager thinks you're unreliable." Later they tell the manager, "I'm worried the team doesn't trust your leadership." They never quote anyone directly, just enough implication to create suspicion. Soon tension fills the office. People become defensive. Meetings feel strained. Trust erodes. When the manager finally addresses the issue and asks where the rumors started, the instigator sighs deeply. "I was only trying to keep communication open. I feel attacked for caring. I guess I should just stay quiet next time." Suddenly they are the wounded one. No acknowledgement of the distortion. No responsibility for the tension. Just a carefully crafted narrative of martyrdom. Or consider a relationship. They flirt publicly, push boundaries, make provocative comments that invite jealousy. When you express discomfort, they respond, "You're so insecure. I can't believe you don't trust me. I feel suffocated." The original issue, their behavior, disappears. The conversation now centers on your supposed flaws. This tactic is powerful because it destabilizes your emotional footing. Stoicism values clarity. The chaotic victim thrives on confusion. As Seneca warned, anger and emotional storms cloud judgment. A person who repeatedly creates emotional turbulence knows that when you are reacting, you are not reasoning. And when you are not reasoning, you are easier to manipulate. Here is the darker truth. Some people feel empty without drama. Peace feels unfamiliar, even threatening. So they disrupt harmony just to feel significance. The resulting chaos gives them relevance. The victim role gives them sympathy. It is a cycle: provoke, distort, deny, claim, injury. And if you're not careful, you will start walking on eggshells to prevent the next storm. But understand this clearly: you cannot prevent chaos created intentionally. A Stoic would say, "Do not participate in unnecessary disturbance." When someone thrives on turbulence, the most powerful response is calm detachment. Observe the pattern without absorbing it. When they provoke, pause. When they dramatize, remain measured. When they claim victimhood, focus on facts, not emotional theatrics. Ask simple questions. What exactly happened? What was said, word for word? What responsibility do you take in this? Notice how discomfort rises when accountability enters the room. Because the chaotic victim does not want clarity. They want control, and clarity dismantles control. Evil rarely appears as open aggression. More often, it hides behind fragility. It cries loudly. It collapses dramatically. It turns every confrontation into a performance of suffering. But Stoicism teaches strength without spectacle. True strength admits fault. True strength resolves conflict quietly. True strength does not need an audience. If someone repeatedly leaves environments fractured, friendships broken, teams divided, families tense, yet always insists they are misunderstood, that is not coincidence. It is a pattern, and patterns reveal character. You cannot stop someone from playing the victim, but you can refuse to play the rescuer in a fire they lit themselves. Guard your peace, stand in facts, detach from drama, because the one who creates chaos and then cries innocence is not confused. They are calculated, and your tranquility is not their stage. 3. They violate boundaries repeatedly. A single mistake, can be forgiven. A misunderstanding can be clarified, but a pattern of ignored boundaries, that is something far darker. In Stoicism, self-respect begins with self-control, and self-control includes knowing where you end and another person begins. Boundaries are not walls of hostility. They are lines of dignity. They protect your time, your energy, your values, and your peace. When someone repeatedly violates your boundaries, they are sending a clear message. Your comfort is less important than my desires. And that is not care, that is control. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we must understand what is within our control and what is not. Your boundaries are within your control, but how others respond to them reveals their character. An honorable person may misunderstand once, but when corrected, they adjust, they respect, they adapt. An evil-minded person does something different. You say, "Please don't speak to me that way." They laugh and say you're too sensitive. You say, "I need space tonight." They call 10 times. You say, "I'm not comfortable sharing that." They pry harder. The violation is not accidental. It is deliberate testing. They are measuring how much they can override you. At first it feels small, harmless even. A joke that goes too far, a comment that feels invasive, a request that makes you uncomfortable. You speak up, and instead of respect, you receive dismissal. That is where the danger lies, not in the first crossing, but in the repeated refusal to honor the line. Marcus Aurelius wrote about maintaining your inner citadel, a fortress of reason that cannot be penetrated without your permission. But when someone constantly pushes your boundaries, they are attempting to weaken the gates. They do not crash through with force. They chip away slowly. Each time you tolerate it, the line moves. Each time you excuse it, the standard lowers. Each time you rationalize it, your inner voice grows quieter, until one day, you barely recognize where your limits used to be. Consider this example. You have a colleague who constantly makes sarcastic remarks about your work in meetings. You privately tell them, calmly, "I'd appreciate feedback without the sarcasm. It undermines me." They smile. "Relax, I'm just joking." Next meeting, they do it again. This time louder, more cutting. When you look uncomfortable, they say, "See, this is what I mean. You can't take criticism." Now the boundary isn't just crossed, it's mocked. Or imagine a romantic relationship. You clearly state, "I need honesty. Even small lies make me uncomfortable." Soon after, you discover they hid something trivial. When confronted, they respond, "It wasn't a big deal. You're overreacting. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd make it dramatic." Notice what happened. Your boundary became the problem. They reframed your request for respect as a flaw. That is manipulation disguised as misunderstanding. Stoicism teaches emotional discipline, but not emotional submission. There is a difference between patience and passivity. A person who violates boundaries repeatedly is not confused. They are conditioned to believe their needs outweigh yours. And here's the deeper truth. They often escalate when they sense resistance. The more firmly you assert yourself, the more they test you, the more calmly you restate your limit, the more creatively they try to bypass it. Why? Because boundaries threaten control. If they cannot intrude on your time, they lose access. If they cannot guilt you, they lose leverage. If they cannot intimidate you, they lose dominance. Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But when boundaries are repeatedly violated, the suffering is not imagined. It is cumulative. It builds as quiet resentment, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. You begin to anticipate the next intrusion. You rehearse conversations in your mind. You feel tense before seeing them. You question whether expressing yourself is even worth it. This is how erosion happens, not with one massive act of disrespect, but with dozens of small ones. And here is the clearest sign of all. When someone respects you, your boundaries feel lighter over time. When someone disrespects you, your boundaries feel like constant battles. A virtuous person listens once. A manipulative person needs consequences. Stoicism does not teach us to tolerate injustice. It teaches us to respond with calm strength. If someone violates your boundary once, clarify it. If they violate it twice, reinforce it. If they violate it repeatedly, reconsider their access to you. Because every boundary you fail to protect teaches someone how to treat you. And someone who repeatedly crosses lines after you've made them clear is revealing something essential about their character. They do not see you as equal, they see you as negotiable. Guard your inner citadel, protect your standards, speak calmly, but stand firmly. Because a person who ignores your boundaries repeatedly is not careless, they are calculating, and your peace is not theirs to invade. 4. They imitate empathy, but don't feel it. Some people don't lack words. They lack sincerity. They know exactly what compassion sounds like. They've studied the tone. They've memorized the phrases. They've perfected the concerned facial expression. But behind the performance, there is nothing. In Stoicism, empathy is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not theatrical. It is steady, rational goodwill toward others, a quiet commitment to justice and humanity. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, we are made for cooperation. To harm another is to harm ourselves. But a person who imitates empathy does not cooperate. They calculate. They don't feel your pain. They assess its usefulness. Watch closely. When you share something vulnerable, they respond quickly, almost too quickly. I'm so sorry you're going through that. That must be really hard. I totally understand. The words are correct, but something feels off. There's no pause, no depth, no presence. Their eyes don't soften. Their energy doesn't slow. Their attention drifts the moment the spotlight shifts away from them. Real empathy lingers. Imitated empathy moves on fast. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that character is revealed not by speech, but by consistent action. Anyone can say the right thing. Few can embody it. The imitator of empathy offers comfort, but only when it benefits them. They console you publicly, but dismiss you privately. They support you when others are watching, but withdraw when you truly need them. They show concern, but only as long as it enhances their image. Their compassion is strategic, and strategy without sincerity is manipulation. Here's how you know the difference. When you confide in a truly empathetic person, you feel lighter afterward. When you confide in an imitator, you feel exposed because something subtle happens. They store your vulnerability, not to protect it, but to use it later. Let's consider an example. You open up about struggling financially. You admit you're stressed and trying to stay strong. They nod, speak softly, reassure you. You're going to get through this. I believe in you. Weeks later, during an argument, they say, well, maybe if you were better with money, we wouldn't have these problems. The mask slips. The empathy was never felt, only filed away as ammunition. Or imagine this scenario. You're grieving the loss of someone close. They sit beside you and say all the right things. I'm here for you. Take all the time you need. You don't have to be strong, but the moment your grief inconveniences them, when you cancel plans, when your energy drops, their tone changes. You're still not over that. You can't let this define you forever. It's been months. Notice the shift. Their compassion had an expiration date because it wasn't rooted in shared humanity. It was rooted in temporary performance. Seneca wrote about the importance of sincerity in friendship, that true bonds are built on mutual virtue. Without virtue, connection becomes transaction, and that is what false empathy is: transaction. They give you emotional validation, but expect loyalty. They listen to your pain, but expect access. They support you, but expect control. When the return on investment disappears, so does their kindness. The most dangerous part: they are often very convincing. They study emotional language. They mirror your tone. They repeat your words back to you. They may even cry with you. But empathy is not mimicry. Empathy is sacrifice. It is patience. It is consistency. An imitator can copy the surface, but cannot sustain the depth. Over time, patterns emerge. When you're succeeding, they subtly compete. When you're struggling, they subtly detach. When you confront them, they turn the conversation toward their own feelings. I feel hurt that you'd question my intentions. After everything I've done for you, now your vulnerability becomes their shield. This is where Stoic clarity becomes essential. A Stoic does not rely on emotional displays as proof of character. They observe behavior over time. Do their actions align with their words? Do they show up when it's inconvenient? Do they protect your vulnerabilities or expose them? A person who imitates empathy is not emotionally ignorant. They are emotionally strategic. They understand that appearing compassionate builds trust, and trust creates access, and access creates influence. But empathy without virtue is a mask, and masks eventually slip. Here's the final example. You share a personal goal, something meaningful. They celebrate you enthusiastically. That's amazing. You deserve it. But behind your back, they downplay your ambition to others. I just hope they don't fail. They're not really ready. Their support exists only in your presence, because their empathy is not rooted in goodwill. It's rooted in image control. Stoicism teaches us to value inner character over outer display. A truly virtuous person doesn't need applause for being kind. They don't advertise their compassion. They live it quietly. When someone imitates empathy, your intuition whispers before your logic understands. You may not be able to explain it at first, but you feel the inconsistency. Trust that feeling. You cannot force someone to feel what they perform, but you can guard your vulnerability carefully, because your pain is not content. Your struggles are not leverage. Your emotions are not tools. They are sacred parts of your human experience, and someone who imitates empathy without feeling it is not harmless. They are observant. They are patient. They are waiting for the moment your openness becomes useful. Stay compassionate, but stay discerning, because the one who performs empathy without possessing it is not connected to you. They are studying you.
There's 5. They lack genuine remorse. An apology is easy. Remorse is rare. Anyone can say, "I'm sorry," but very few feel the weight of what they've done. In Stoicism, character is measured not by perfection, but by correction. Mistakes are inevitable. Even the wisest stumble. What separates virtue from corruption is what follows the mistake. Do they reflect? Do they change? Or do they simply perform regret to escape consequences? The Stoics believed that growth begins with self-examination.
Seneca wrote about reviewing his day each night, asking himself where he failed, where he improved, where he could do better. That habit requires humility. It requires discomfort. It requires confronting your own flaws without defense. A person who lacks genuine remorse avoids this entirely. They apologize only when cornered. They admit fault only when exposed. They show emotion only when consequences arrive. Their regret is not about the harm they caused. It is about the trouble they face. There is a difference. Real remorse sounds like this: I understand how that hurt you. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to do better. False remorse sounds like this: I said I'm sorry. What more do you want? You're still bringing this up. Can we just move on? Notice the urgency to close the conversation. Because without closure, accountability lingers, and accountability threatens control. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that when he did wrong, he must correct it willingly and without resentment. True strength is not stubbornness. It is the courage to admit error. But someone without remorse does something different. They minimize, they justify, they reframe. If they lied, it was for a good reason. If they insulted you, you misinterpreted. If they betrayed trust, it wasn't that serious. The harm becomes smaller in their narrative. And if the harm becomes small enough, then no change is required. Let's look at an example. Imagine you discover a close friend shared something deeply personal about you without permission. When confronted, they respond, "I didn't think it was a big deal. You're overreacting. I was just venting." You explain that it broke your trust. After some pressure, they sigh, "Fine, I'm sorry." But nothing shifts. Weeks later, you find out they've done it again, this time with different details. That is not remorse. That is compliance. Remorse changes behavior. Compliance changes tone. Or consider a relationship scenario. They lose their temper and say something cruel, something personal. You go quiet. They notice the distance. Later they send a message, "I'm sorry you feel hurt." Not, "I'm sorry I hurt you." "I'm sorry you feel hurt." The language subtly shifts responsibility back onto you. That is calculated. Someone without genuine remorse sees apology as a tool, not a transformation. And here's the deeper danger. Without remorse, there is no internal brake system. Remorse is what stops someone from repeating harm. It is the internal alarm that says, "This is not who I want to be." Without it, behavior continues unchecked. The Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, emphasized that we must align our actions with virtue. When we fail, we must return to that alignment. But if someone feels no discomfort about wrongdoing, they see no need to realign. Their conscience is quiet, or perhaps worse, silenced. Over time, you'll notice patterns. They cry when they're caught, but not when you're hurt. They panic about consequences, but not about character. They ask for forgiveness, but resent accountability. And if you forgive them, they interpret it not as grace, but as permission. That is why cycles repeat. Because to them, forgiveness without change equals freedom without responsibility. Let's go deeper. True remorse involves three things: acknowledgement without excuse, emotional understanding of the harm caused, consistent behavioral correction. If even one of these is missing, what you're witnessing may be performance. Some people are incredibly skilled at emotional displays, tears, silence, dramatic confessions, promises of transformation. But watch what happens when the spotlight fades. Do they adjust their behavior quietly, even when no one is watching?
Or do they return to the same pattern once safety returns? A person lacking remorse often grows irritated when reminded of their past actions. You always bring up old stuff. I thought we moved past that. You're never satisfied. But what they call old stuff may simply be unhealed wounds. Stoicism teaches us not to cling to resentment, but it does not teach us to ignore patterns. Wisdom is not bitterness, it is clarity. If someone repeatedly harms you and shows no lasting change, that is data, and data reveals character. You cannot force remorse into someone's heart. You cannot manufacture their conscience. You cannot carry both the wound and the lesson for them, but you can observe. You can notice whether apologies are followed by transformation or repetition. Because someone who lacks genuine remorse is not just flawed, they are untethered from self-correction. And without self-correction, harm becomes habit. The Stoics believed virtue is the only true good, not charm, not intelligence, not status, virtue. And remorse is the doorway back to virtue. When we stray, if someone never walks through that doorway, no matter how many times they stand in front of it, you must ask yourself, are they sorry for hurting you, or sorry for being confronted? The answer will tell you everything. Guard your peace, value actions over apologies, and remember, forgiveness is noble, but access is earned. Not everyone who says, "I'm sorry," has truly returned to virtue. Some are simply trying to escape consequences.
6. They feel entitled to everything. There is a quiet arrogance more dangerous than loud pride. It doesn't shout. It assumes. It assumes your time belongs to them. Your energy belongs to them. Your forgiveness belongs to them. Your loyalty belongs to them. They feel entitled to everything without earning anything. In Stoicism, entitlement is a symptom of inner poverty. The Stoics believed that the only thing we truly own is our character, not possessions, not praise, not power, not even other people's approval. Yet the entitled person lives as if the world owes them. Epictetus taught that suffering comes from expecting what is not in our control. An entitled person constantly suffers because they expect special treatment as a default. They don't ask for help, they demand it. They don't appreciate support, they expect it. They don't earn respect, they assume it. And when they don't receive what they believe is theirs, their mask slips. They become irritated, cold, passive-aggressive, sometimes even hostile. Because entitlement is fragile, it collapses when reality refuses to cooperate. Watch closely how they respond when denied. If you say, "I can't help today," they don't respond with understanding. They respond with guilt-tripping. "Wow, I guess I know where I stand. After everything I've done for you, fine, I'll just handle it myself." Notice the emotional pressure. They believe access to you is guaranteed. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet reminded himself daily that he was not owed comfort, praise, or ease. He practiced voluntary humility, recognizing that fortune changes and nothing external is promised. But the entitled person rejects this wisdom. They see kindness as obligation. They see generosity as debt. They see boundaries as betrayal. And here is the darker layer. They believe they deserve more than others, more attention, more forgiveness, more patience, more second chances. Let's look at an example. You have a friend who constantly asks for favors, rides, money, emotional support, networking connections. You provide help repeatedly. But when you finally say, "I'm stretched thin right now," they respond, So now you're too good to help me. I guess I'll remember this next time you need something. They reinterpret your boundary as an offense, that is entitlement. Or consider a relationship. They expect immediate responses to their messages, but take hours or days to respond to yours. When confronted, they say, "I'm busy. You know how my schedule is," but when you're unavailable, they accuse you of neglect. Their needs are urgent. Yours are optional. That imbalance is not accidental. Entitlement often disguises itself as confidence, but confidence respects equality. Entitlement assumes superiority. Seneca warned against attaching our happiness to external privileges, because when privilege becomes expectation, gratitude disappears, and without gratitude, humility dies. The entitled person rarely says thank you with depth. Gratitude, if expressed, feels transactional, as if they are acknowledging a service rather than appreciating a sacrifice. Over time, something subtle happens to you. You begin to feel obligated, not generous, obligated. Not willing, pressured. Your help feels less like kindness and more like duty. That is how entitlement spreads. It converts voluntary goodwill into enforced compliance. And here is the most dangerous part. They often feel entitled to your forgiveness. They hurt you. They dismiss you. They disrespect you. Then they expect you to be mature and move on. If you hold them accountable, they accuse you of holding grudges. If you distance yourself, they claim you're overreacting. To them, your tolerance is not a gift. It is a requirement. But Stoicism teaches something powerful. No one is entitled to your inner peace. You control access to your time, your attention, your emotional investment. An entitled person struggles with this reality. They believe access is permanent, that your loyalty is unconditional, that your resources are communal, but primarily for them. Watch how they treat service workers. Watch how they speak about people beneath them. Watch how they react when told no. Entitlement reveals itself most clearly when expectations are unmet. If someone becomes hostile when denied, it means they were never requesting, they were claiming. Let's go deeper. Healthy relationships operate on mutual choice. Entitled relationships operate on assumed ownership. They may say, "You're mine," but what they mean is, "You belong to me." There is a difference. One expresses affection, the other expresses control. Stoicism reminds us that everything external is temporary, including people. We are companions by choice, not property by right. If someone behaves as if your time, energy, and patience are permanent fixtures in their life, regardless of how they treat you, that is not love. That is entitlement, and entitlement, left unchecked, evolves into exploitation. You cannot change someone who believes they deserve more than others, but you can refuse to reinforce that belief. Say no calmly, withdraw when disrespected. Offer help by choice, not by pressure, because every time you give in to entitlement, you strengthen it, and every time you stand firm, you restore balance. Remember this: gratitude builds relationships. Entitlement corrodes them. A person who feels entitled to everything will never truly value anything, including you. Guard your generosity. Offer it freely, not forcibly. And never confuse someone's expectations with your obligations. Nothing is owed but virtue. Everything else is earned.
7. They turn people against each other. There are people who don't fight openly. They orchestrate. They don't throw punches. They whisper. They don't stand in the center of conflict. They stand behind it, pulling invisible strings. One of the darkest signs you're in the company of an evil person is this: they turn people against each other.
In Stoicism, unity and cooperation are natural laws. Marcus Aurelius wrote that human beings are made for one another, like hands, like feet, like rows of teeth working together. To divide people intentionally is to act against nature itself. But the manipulator thrives on division, because when people are united, they are strong. When people are divided, they are easier to control. This person studies relationships carefully. They observe insecurities. They listen for frustrations. They collect small grievances like tools in a toolbox. Then they begin their work. They tell you quietly, "I don't want to start drama," but they lean in closer. They lower their voice. They imply concern. "I just think you should know what she said about you." Notice the framing. They position themselves as a protector, a truth teller, a loyal ally, but what they deliver is distortion. Sometimes they exaggerate. Sometimes they omit context. Sometimes they fabricate entirely. The goal is not clarity. The goal is reaction. And once reaction begins, they step back and watch the fracture spread. Epictetus taught that we must guard our judgments carefully. A divisive person exploits this, planting seeds in your mind before you have verified facts. They rely on speed. They rely on emotion. They rely on wounded pride. Because once you are angry, you are less rational. And when you are less rational, they are more powerful. Let's look at an example. Imagine a group of close friends. One of them, the instigator, begins telling each member slightly different stories. To one they say, "I think she's jealous of you." To another, "He said you weren't reliable." To a third, "I'm worried the group is changing without you." Each statement contains just enough plausibility to sting. Soon subtle tension fills the room. People grow guarded. Conversations become shorter. Trust weakens. When someone finally confronts the issue, the instigator responds, "I was just trying to keep everyone informed. I guess I cared too much. I didn't think it would blow up like this." Again, innocence. But chaos was never accidental. Or consider a workplace scenario. A colleague privately tells you that your manager doubts your performance. Then they tell the manager that you're questioning leadership decisions. Neither statement is entirely true, but both are strategically framed. Soon meetings feel tense. Evaluations feel uncertain. Suspicion replaces clarity. When questioned, the instigator shrugs. "I must have misunderstood. I was just repeating what I heard." But they were the source. This behavior is called triangulation, inserting oneself between two parties to control information flow. It keeps everyone dependent on them for updates, clarifications, or insider knowledge. And dependency creates power. Seneca warned that anger spreads quickly among groups. A person who enjoys turning people against each other understands this well. They don't need to shout. They only need to suggest. The most dangerous part. They often appear calm during the fallout. While others argue, they comfort. While others defend themselves, they listen. While others burn, they observe. They may even say, "I hate seeing everyone fight." But without their whisper, the fight may never have existed. Over time, this pattern isolates people. You start doubting who to trust. You hesitate to speak freely. You wonder who else has heard a distorted version of your words. That isolation strengthens them, because when trust erodes, people look for stability, and the instigator positions themselves as the stable one. Here is how you know you're witnessing this behavior. Conversations feel fragmented. Stories don't match. You hear your own words quoted back with subtle alterations. And whenever you attempt direct communication with others, the instigator becomes uncomfortable, because direct communication bypasses them, and they cannot control what they cannot intercept. Stoicism teaches us to value truth and clarity. If someone discourages direct conversations and prefers private whispers, be alert. A virtuous person resolves conflict openly. A divisive person cultivates conflict quietly. Let's go deeper. Why do they do this? Often because unity threatens them. If two people compare notes, the manipulation collapses. If a group communicates directly, the distortions unravel. So they keep everyone slightly misaligned. Not enough to explode, but enough to prevent cohesion. It is slow sabotage, and the longer it continues, the harder it becomes to identify the origin. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control others' behavior, but we can control our response. If you suspect someone is turning people against each other, respond with clarity. Verify information directly. Ask, did you actually say this? Encourage open dialogue in shared spaces, not private corridors. Watch how the instigator reacts when transparency increases. Discomfort reveals motive, because division thrives in secrecy. Unity thrives in light. A person who repeatedly fractures relationships is not unlucky. They are intentional. And someone who thrives when others distrust each other is not a peacemaker. They are an architect of chaos. Guard your mind. Seek direct truth. Refuse to carry second-hand resentment. Because when someone turns people against each other, they are not strengthening bonds. They are weakening foundations. And Stoicism teaches this final truth. A divided group is easier to control, but a united group is harder to deceive. Choose unity.
8. They use kindness as a weapon. Not all kindness is pure. Some kindness comes with a receipt. It looks generous. It sounds thoughtful. It feels supportive. But beneath it, there is calculation. One of the darkest signs you are in the company of an evil person is this: they use kindness as a weapon. In Stoicism, virtue is its own reward. A good act requires no applause, no leverage, no future claim. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to do good and move on, like a vine that bears grapes, without demanding gratitude from those who eat them. But a manipulative person does not give like a vine. They give like a banker. Every favor is recorded. Every sacrifice is tracked. Every act of generosity becomes future currency. At first, it feels wonderful. They help you when you're overwhelmed. They surprise you with thoughtful gestures. They step in when you're struggling. You think, how lucky am I to have someone so kind? But then comes the shift. Weeks later, during a disagreement, they say, after everything I've done for you, the kindness reappears, not as memory, but as ammunition. That is not generosity. That is investment. Seneca wrote extensively about giving. He argued that a true gift should feel light, both to the giver and the receiver. The moment a gift creates pressure or debt, it ceases to be virtuous. The weaponized giver understands this power dynamic deeply. They choose moments when you are vulnerable. They offer help when you are desperate. They step in when you feel alone. And in doing so, they position themselves above you. Kindness becomes leverage. Let's look at an example. You're going through financial hardship. A friend offers to lend you money. You hesitate, but they insist. Don't worry about it. I've got you. You feel relieved, grateful. Months later, during an unrelated argument, they say, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have survived that period.
Suddenly, the favor isn't support, it's superiority. The kindness wasn't given freely, it was stored. Or imagine a romantic relationship. They shower you with affection early on. Gifts, compliments, constant attention. It feels intense, almost overwhelming. You feel chosen, prioritized. But later, when you express independence, wanting time with friends, pursuing your own goals, they remind you, "I've sacrificed so much for you. No one will ever treat you like I do. You owe me at least this." Now kindness becomes control. The original generosity creates an invisible obligation. This tactic is powerful because it confuses you. You don't want to seem ungrateful. You don't want to deny their past support. You don't want to appear selfish. So you compromise your boundaries. And that's the goal. Epictetus taught that freedom lies in recognizing what is truly yours. Your choices are yours. Your values are yours. Your autonomy is yours. But when someone weaponizes kindness, they attempt to purchase your autonomy. They don't demand it outright. They imply it. They may say, "I just thought we were closer than that. I guess I care more about this relationship than you do. I never would have said no to you." Notice the emotional manipulation. Their kindness becomes proof of your supposed obligation. And here is the deeper danger. You begin to question your right to independence. You think, maybe I do owe them. Maybe I should compromise. Maybe I'm being unfair. But kindness given with expectation is not kindness. It is a contract, disguised as compassion. A truly virtuous person helps because it aligns with their character, not because it secures future obedience. You can tell the difference by observing what happens when you say no. If someone gave to you freely, they will respect your refusal. Freely, if someone gave to control you, your refusal will trigger guilt tactics. They may grow cold, withdraw affection, remind you repeatedly of past favors. Another example, a co-worker constantly covers your shifts or helps you with tasks, even when you don't ask. Later they request something unethical or inconvenient. When you hesitate, they say, "I've always had your back." The implication is clear. Now it's your turn. The kindness was never neutral. It was strategic positioning. Stoicism teaches emotional discipline, but also discernment. We are called to act with virtue, but not to be blind to manipulation. A person who uses kindness as a weapon often appears selfless in public. Others may admire them. They cultivate an image of generosity, which makes it harder for you to explain what feels wrong. Because from the outside they look kind, but from the inside you feel pressure. Real kindness feels freeing. Weaponized kindness feels binding. Real generosity strengthens equality. Weaponized generosity creates hierarchy. Over time you may notice something else. Their kindness is selective. They are generous when it earns visibility. They are generous when it secures loyalty. They are generous when it strengthens their image. But when giving offers no advantage, their enthusiasm fades. That is not virtue. That is strategy. Remember this. You are allowed to receive help without surrendering independence. You are allowed to accept support without offering obedience. You are allowed to say no, even to someone who once said yes to you. Kindness is beautiful when it is clean. Kindness is beautiful when it is clean. It becomes dangerous when it is conditional. So observe carefully. Does their generosity feel light or heavy? Does it empower you or bind you? Does it disappear when you assert yourself? Because someone who uses kindness as a weapon is not giving. They are positioning.
And Stoicism reminds us, a gift that costs your freedom is not a gift at all. Guard your autonomy, accept kindness wisely, and never confuse generosity with ownership. True virtue gives and lets go.
9. They use fear to influence. Fear is one of the oldest tools of control. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to strike. It only needs to linger. A person who uses fear to influence doesn't always threaten you directly. Sometimes the fear is subtle, emotional, psychological, invisible to outsiders, but heavy to you. In Stoicism, fear is a reaction to imagined loss, loss of status, loss of approval, loss of safety, loss of control. The Stoics believed that when we fear what we cannot control, we become easy to manipulate. Epictetus taught that true freedom begins when we stop fearing external things, but the manipulator understands something critical. If they can control your fear, they can control your behavior. They may not say, "Do this or else." Instead, they imply consequences. If you really cared about me, people who act like that don't last long here. You don't want me to get upset. Notice the pattern. The message is not direct, but the pressure is clear. You adjust yourself to avoid their reaction. That's the influence. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. A person who uses fear understands this deeply. They rarely need to act. They only need to suggest. Once you begin anticipating their anger, disappointment, or punishment, they no longer need to enforce it. You will enforce it on yourself. That is the ultimate control. Let's explore how this shows up. In relationships, fear-based influence often looks like emotional instability. They have unpredictable reactions. One day they're affectionate, the next distant. One moment calm, the next explosive. You never know which version you'll encounter. So you begin walking on eggshells. You monitor your tone. You rehearse conversations. You suppress opinions, not because you agree, but because you fear their response. That fear reshapes you. Here's an example. You express disagreement in a calm conversation. Suddenly, their tone sharpens. Wow. So now I'm the bad guy. Maybe I should just stop trying. You always do this. Their reaction is disproportionate. The next time you disagree, you hesitate. Not because you've changed your mind, but because you want to avoid the emotional fallout. That is fear conditioning. Or consider the workplace. A manager rarely yells, but occasionally humiliates someone publicly. Not every time, just enough. Everyone sees it. Now the entire team becomes hyper-aware. No one wants to be the next example. The manager doesn't need to threaten. The memory of humiliation does the work. Seneca warned that anger is a form of temporary madness. A person who uses fear often weaponizes anger strategically. They explode unpredictably, just enough to keep you uncertain. Uncertainty breeds anxiety. Anxiety breeds compliance. Sometimes the fear isn't loud at all. Sometimes it's silence. They withdraw affection when displeased. They become cold, distant, detached. You ask what's wrong. Nothing, but everything feels wrong. You sense disapproval, but receive no clarity. So you scramble to fix something you cannot define. You apologize for things you're unsure you did. That is fear of abandonment. They may not threaten to leave, but they imply it. I don't know how much longer I can deal with this. Maybe we're just not compatible. The possibility of loss becomes leverage. And slowly, your behavior bends around their moods. Stoicism teaches emotional sovereignty, the ability to remain steady despite external turbulence.
But someone who uses fear intentionally attempts to disrupt that sovereignty. They want you reactive, they want you uncertain, they want you dependent on their approval. Fear-based influence also appears through status and reputation. They may say, "People talk. You don't want others thinking that about you. I can make things difficult." It's rarely explicit. It's implied power. The fear does not need to be proven. It only needs to be plausible. The darkest part, you may not even recognize it as fear at first. You just feel tense, hyper-alert, careful. You rationalize it as keeping the peace. But peace built on fear is not peace. It is suppression. Let's examine another example. You want to pursue a new opportunity, a promotion, a move, a new project. Instead of supporting you, they say, "That's risky. What if you fail? You're not ready. People like us don't do that." Their tone sounds protective, but their message plants doubt. Over time, you begin shrinking your ambitions to avoid criticism. They don't forbid you, they discourage you. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, and you remain smaller, because smaller feels safer. A person who uses fear to influence does not inspire. They intimidate, and intimidation is the opposite of virtue. A Stoic understands that fear loses power when examined. Ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Is this threat real or implied? What happens if I stand firm anyway? Often the manipulator relies on your imagination more than their actual power. When you remain calm in the face of their intimidation, something shifts. Their tactics weaken. Because fear requires reaction. If you do not react, they must escalate or retreat. True authority does not need fear. True leadership does not require intimidation. True love does not depend on anxiety. If someone's influence over you is maintained primarily through tension, uncertainty, or threat, that is not respect. It is control. And Stoicism teaches us this final truth. You cannot always remove the person, but you can remove the fear. When you detach your self-worth from their reactions, their influence collapses. Stand steady, speak calmly, refuse to be ruled by imagined consequences, because once you stop fearing their response, they lose their grip. And nothing terrifies a fear-based manipulator more than someone who is no longer afraid.
10. They reject virtue entirely. At the core of every dark character is a simple truth. Some people do not value virtue, not partially, not inconsistently, entirely. In Stoicism, virtue is the highest good. It is not wealth, status, or influence. It is wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. The Stoic philosophers, including Marcus Aurelius, believe that a good life is built on character, not circumstances. But a person who rejects virtue does something different. They view morality as weakness. They treat kindness as naivety. They see integrity as a disadvantage. To them, success is measured by dominance, not dignity. Winning matters more than truth. Advantage matters more than fairness. And this rejection of virtue is one of the clearest signs of a corrupted mindset. Let's unpack it. A virtuous person strives to do the right thing, even when no one is watching. They apologize sincerely. They respect boundaries. They treat others with basic humanity. Because virtue is internal. It does not depend on applause. The person who rejects virtue operates differently. They do good only when it benefits them. They follow rules only when enforced. They respect others only when convenient. If there is no immediate advantage, ethical considerations disappear. This is not accidental. It is worldview. Seneca wrote that character is revealed in small choices. Anyone can act nobly in public, The true test is behavior when consequences are absent. Imagine an example. A co-worker discovers a mistake in their favor, extra payment, incorrect credit, an opportunity to remain silent. A virtuous person would correct it. They understand that integrity matters. The virtue-rejecting person does the opposite. They keep the advantage. They justify it. They tell themselves they deserve it. No guilt, no reflection, no correction, or consider a social scenario. Someone spreads a rumor that benefits them, elevating their status by diminishing another. When confronted, they shrug. It's not that serious. People would have found out anyway. I didn't mean it like that. The damage is irrelevant. The justification is what matters. Because in their framework, outcomes outweigh ethics. Stoicism challenges this worldview. It asks, what kind of person do I want to be? Not just what I achieve, not just how others see me, but who I become in the process. A person rejecting virtue asks a different question. What can I get away with? That question reveals priorities. If boundaries are weak, they push. If honesty is inconvenient, they lie. If compassion requires sacrifice, they refuse. They do not actively declare themselves evil. Most do not think in those terms. They simply prioritize self-interest above all else. And over time, patterns emerge. Disrespect becomes routine. Excuses become automatic. Accountability becomes an enemy. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that freedom comes from self-mastery. A person who rejects virtue is not free. They are ruled by impulses. Desire, pride, convenience, power, these forces dictate behavior. Let's explore a deeper example. A leader in a group project cuts corners to finish faster. The result looks good on the surface, but quality suffers. When issues arise, they deflect. It wasn't my responsibility. We didn't have enough time. Everyone agreed. The goal was appearance, not excellence. Virtue would have demanded effort and honesty, acknowledging limitations, communicating risks, doing the work properly. But virtue was rejected because integrity takes patience. It requires doing what is right, even when shortcuts exist. A person who rejects virtue views such discipline as unnecessary. Why work harder when results look fine? Why admit fault when no one noticed? Why prioritize ethics when outcomes matter more? This mindset can be seductive. It promises ease. It promises advantage. It promises freedom from moral complexity. But it creates something darker: emptiness. Achievements without integrity feel hollow. Relationships built on manipulation lack trust. Success without virtue becomes fragile. Because sooner or later, consequences arrive. Trust erodes. Reputation suffers. Opportunities disappear. Not always immediately, but inevitably. Stoicism teaches that character is the foundation of a meaningful life. Without it, external gains cannot sustain inner peace. A person rejecting virtue may appear powerful. They may win arguments. They may gain status. They may control situations, but power without principle is unstable. History is full of examples. Leaders, corporations, relationships that collapsed because short-term advantage replaced long-term integrity. The lesson is clear. Virtue is not weakness, it is strength. It requires discipline to do the right thing when no one is watching. It requires courage to admit mistakes. It requires humility to prioritize truth over ego. Someone who rejects virtue often mocks these qualities. They call honesty naive. They call compassion foolish. They call accountability unnecessary.
but their mockery reveals insecurity. Because virtue threatens their worldview, if doing the right thing matters, their shortcuts appear flawed. If integrity matters, their manipulation becomes unacceptable, so they dismiss it. That dismissal is telling. A person secure in their character does not need to belittle virtue. They embody it. They treat others with respect. They accept responsibility. They strive for improvement, not perfection, improvement. Even the Stoics acknowledged human fallibility. Marcus Aurelius reflected daily on his shortcomings. Virtue is a direction, not a destination. But the person rejecting virtue refuses the journey. They prefer immediate gain. Here is the final insight. You cannot force someone to value virtue. You cannot convince them to care, but you can observe their behavior. Do they respect boundaries? Do they tell the truth? Do they act fairly? Do they show remorse when wrong? If the answers consistently trend negative, that is information, not judgment. Information. Stoicism encourages wisdom in relationships. Not everyone shares the same values. Not everyone seeks growth. Some prioritize self-interest above all. Recognizing that does not require anger. It requires clarity. You are responsible for your character. You cannot control others' choices, but you can choose how you respond. If someone rejects virtue entirely, limit your expectations, set boundaries, prioritize your well-being. Because engaging with someone who does not value integrity often leads to frustration. They operate by different rules, and you deserve relationships built on mutual respect. Virtue may not guarantee success in every external sense, but it guarantees something deeper. Self-respect, a life aligned with principles, a character you can face without shame. That is the Stoic ideal, and it remains timeless.
The world will always contain people whose actions test your patience and principles. You cannot control them, but you can control yourself. Stoicism teaches that character is the only true possession. Everything else can change, disappear, or be taken. When you meet darkness, you do not have to mirror it. When you encounter manipulation, you do not have to surrender your values. Stand firm, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. Choose dignity over reaction, truth over convenience, and virtue over temporary advantage. In doing so, you protect the most important thing you own, your integrity. That is strength, that is freedom, and that is the foundation of a life worth living.